Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is taking action to demote Senator Mark Kelly's military rank and possibly cut into his retirement pension.
The move is due to Kelly's involvement in a video where he and 5 other Democrats told U.S. service members that it's their duty to defy illegal orders. Hegseth called the video seditious. He said it violates the Uniform Code of Military Justice. His statement from Monday says, in part, as a retired Navy captain who is still receiving a military pension, Captain Kelly knows he's still accountable to military justice, and the Department of War and the American people expect justice. These actions are based on Captain Kelly's public statements from June through December 2025, in which he characterized lawful military operation as illegal and counseled members of the armed forces to refuse lawful orders.
Now, Kelly is a former Navy captain who served for 25 years before retiring and getting into politics. He also spent 15 years as a NASA astronaut, along with his twin brother, Scott. Kelly did respond to Hegseth's statement. He says, in part, over 25 years in the U.S. Navy, 39 combat missions, and 4 missions to space. I risked my life for this country and to defend our Constitution, including the First Amendment rights of every American to speak out. I never expected that the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense would attack me for doing exactly that. If Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in our country's history, thinks he can intimidate me with a censure or threats to demote me or prosecute me, he still doesn't get it. I will fight this with everything I've got, not for myself, but to send a message back that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump don't get to decide what Americans in this country get to say about their government.
The video that Kelly's potentially being demoted for was released amidst the controversial deadly boat strikes the U.S. has conducted off the coast of South America. But Kelly and the other lawmakers kept their messages vague, not referring to any specific actions that service members should defy.
Now, according to the New York Times, Kelly's lawyers have maintained that the senator was just articulating a fundamental principle of military law. In a letter from last month, they indicated they would take legal action if the Department of Defense tried to take any action against Senator Kelly. This is extremely petty. I think it should let down people who fight for this country, especially somebody like Mark Kelly, who named the amount of time that he's fought for this country. I think when the Democratic lawmakers released the video, no matter how you felt about it, there was a slew of Republican leadership that was questioning the same thing. Maybe they didn't go to the point of saying what was actually part of the rule of our land, which is that if you think something is illegal as a military order, you do not have to comply. But that's literally what they said in the video. And at the same time, Congress members on both sides of the aisle were saying, what we're doing off the coast of South America, is that legal? When there were reports in the New York Times that parents of a person from Trinidad and Tobago was like, wait, my son was one of the people killed. He's not a drug criminal. What's going on here?
So they say.
And so, yeah, this is all reports. But so Trump says these are all drug criminals. We have to just accept people's word for it, as opposed to going through Congress the right way and making sure this is something that the United States wanted to engage in, which he's not calling a war. And I think, Kelly, being the highly decorated person that he is and military member with all this experience, this is sending a bigger message to service members that basically if you speak out of turn and say something that the president or Hegseth doesn't like, well, then you will be retaliated against. And I don't think that's the message that we should be sending to people that spend more than 2 decades fighting for our country.
I basically agree.
Oh, I tear in my eyes.
There's nothing to fight over,
but you always excuse the pettiness of the administration, and I think that it shouldn't be excused. Like this, where will we stop? Like, you're going to attack a service member and not only take away some of their pay, retirement pay, but demote them in title? I just think that the fact that we have no decorum whatsoever and are taking the time out for these vendettas because people put videos out, which honors the free speech that they talk about so vehemently defending. I just don't get that. And I think that there has to be like someone in the party that holds them accountable to these petty games that they're playing with people, wasting time and money trying to attack people that just say things that they don't like.
Yep.
Who's it going to be?
What do you want me to say?
It should be you. This is what I'm waiting for you to say.
What am I supposed to do?
You should say this is not acceptable, President Trump. You should tell everybody who's watching us right now.
It's not President Trump doing it. It's Hegseth.
You should. It's both of them in tandem. President Trump said seditious behavior is punishable by death in a November 20th post on Truth Social in response to the Democratic lawmakers putting out that video. Yes? And so is that what we should be saying to a former service member and Democratic leaders, especially in the wake of Charlie Kirk, that we should be punishable by death because they're seditious?
No.
No. You can't just say one word, though.
Sure I can.
No, you can't. You have to say more words. Because you have to say something about the people that are in the comments defending Trump's behavior consistently. Jane kind of broke down the three kind of Republicans there are. And there's some that are just like, whatever you do, I'm going to go with it. That's unacceptable. People should be able to say right is right and wrong is wrong.
My issue is what you alluded to. Mark Kelly is a senator, and he has to be able to opine on issues of the day without fearing some risk of, malfeasance of this kind. I mean, I do think it's just generally not. I want soldiers to refuse to follow obviously blatantly unconstitutional or immoral or illegal orders. I don't think it's a practical consideration really for the average soldier to be constantly working through whether more granular things they've been asked to do are within the scope of, that's not on them to figure out, that's on the Supreme Court and lawmakers and so on. So, there shouldn't be constant dissension in the ranks really, but, there have been cases throughout American history of, the scenes from Vietnam, the My Lai massacre, shoot this person right now in the face, where we would want a soldier to say, to think twice about doing that, I think. So I didn't really have any problem with what Kelly said specifically, while again maintaining that the broader questions about what is constitutional and what is legal, we won't have a coherent fighting force if everybody's questioning their orders all the time or saying, I got to check with a constitutional lawyer about whether I can, patrol the, we've got the National Guard in D.C. right now. They gotta do their patrols. They can't. The question about whether they should be there is one the courts are resolving. The courts has basically said DC's fine because it's federal, partly patrol, but they can't send them to Chicago. Okay, so that's something that's above the individual soldier's pay grade, and I don't say that in a dismissive way. I say that it's just not up to them. It would be a burden on them to say that it's their responsibility. But a general reminder that you can think for yourself. You should opt not to do things that blatantly violate your moral code. If you're routinely, I've said this before, if you're routinely being asked to do things that violate your own moral code in the military or in government service more broadly, then you should exit that service probably, is what I would say to that.
Yes, and so, I want you to condemn this behavior like you would condemn Jasmine Crockett. I'm giving you the last 30 seconds on the floor.
I think I did.
No, not strong enough. Act like this is somebody who you can't stand.
I'm not going to set my hair on fire over it, but I think it is a waste of time and not a good idea to punish Mark Kelly for expressing a rather benign point of view that I effectively agree with.
Well said, Ravi. Next up, Candace Owens is speaking out after a French court found 10 people guilty of cyberbullying Brigitte Macron. We'll be right back after this.